What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I want to talk about a term that is becoming increasingly more common, if not like prominent in the knife world, and that's fidget factor. That was something that I don't think I started hearing until like, and now everybody's different, but I don't think I started hearing it until like maybe 3 years ago or something like that. And now it's like super common. I mean, I find myself saying it in just about every single one of my reviews. And I realized I'm like, when did this become a factor to me? Is it even a factor? What is it? Like how much how often am I, like paying attention to that? So and it just sort of crept into our EDC world, right? Our EDC community, and has become this accepted term. Now, I'm going to point out right away that there's going to be a whole bunch of people rolling their eyes, and probably right now you can look down in the comment section and somebody will have written out a short paragraph about how tools are meant to be used as tools and not played with, and we know. It's like I say many times on my videos, you're not changing any minds. If you don't think that fidget factor is something that affects you, you're welcome to think that. But some people are absolutely affected by it, and I got news for you. The term and the effect that it has on people isn't going anywhere. In fact, it's obvious that this term and basically the whole idea of fidget factor is actually used by knife designers to draw attention towards a certain model, because we all like to be able to deploy our knives with one hand and put it away, but at the same time it becomes increasingly more interesting when you're able to do it in a way that is unorthodox, right? So that's absolutely a thing. And I've got laid out here a whole bunch of stuff that I would say fidget factor applies to with me. Now, this is without, like, I do look at knives as tools, right? Pens are for writing, right? And bit drivers are used for making adjustments or taking things apart. Bottle openers open bottles. Knives cut. Pry bars pry, right? Flashlights illuminate. Those are their base jobs. But part of the draw to this enthusiast EDC world, and yes, part of the reason of the expanse of the knife world and the EDC world in general, is the fact that it panders to the enthusiast, right? Sometimes it's a hybridization of enthusiast and user and collector. I would consider myself all of those things. Yeah, I mean, these are things that I find myself fidgeting with without even really thinking about it. And I want to kind of go over my thoughts on this and what, I'm not going to try and say like fidget factor is important, but I'm going to kind of get into the philosophy behind it. I don't know how much you guys will get out of this, but this is a topic I want to cover. Real quick, if you're watching likely you're watching my channel because you've got the itch, right? I mean, considering the topic, you clicked on this video. If you want to find out all the stuff that I recommend, be it knives or EDC gear or maintenance stuff, I mean, whatever it is that you're looking for, I've set up this Amazon store so you can check out my most recommended knives, favorite budget knives, knife display, storage, maintenance stuff, EDC gear, fixed blades, Victorinox stuff, a whole bunch of brands, and just everything nicely categorized out. Each one of those selections has tons and tons and tons of gear and knives in there. So if you want to check that stuff out, please feel free to click on that link. You're sure to find something that you'll like. So anyways, everything here has in what I would consider to be fidget factor. I think the base idea of fidget factor comes from knives like titanium frame lock flippers on bearings, and knives like the Spyderco Para 3 with a thumb hole or opening hole and the compression lock. The idea's foundation, at least in my opinion, is that you push levers and you use momentum to sort of release the blade or fire it out into the locking position, and then you use minimal hand movement to comfortably adjust, push on some sort of release locking mechanism, and swing the blade back into place. And it's that fluid motion, once you get it down, that's satisfying, right? Because, I mean, everybody knows what it feels like to get your first reverse flick. Maybe not everybody, but when you get there, you're going to go, oh, I did it. It's fun. And then move it. In the case of the PM2 or Para 3, it's the same way with PM2, right? Fire it out. And then you make that universal transition. Let's do it again. Here, transition, swing. And if you can get it to swing perfectly shut, that's the ideal. Right, there you go. Oh, it's nice. Does that aid you in any way? No. I'm getting the blade out and just putting it away. But this is what we do when we're sitting on our couch watching. At my house, it's Parks and Rec, The Office, Game of Thrones, whatever. This is what I'm doing. And then my wife goes, "Stop it!" You know, like after it's just silence for the longest time. But yeah, that's what we do. In the case of a frame lock, you flip, push, and then right there, right? And that action, we've fetishized ceramic bearings, right? Because it's crispy. And then you feel the detent just pull it into place, right? These are the knives that kind of do it for me. But those are completely, is it non-utilitarian or non-utilitarian features of knives that, knife makers, knife designers have emphasized because there is a demand for that when it is coupled with a utilitarian cutting tool. And then stack on top of that, you've got premium materials, handmade item, something that looks cool. And oh boy, people will spend money on that, right? That's the fad right now. It didn't used to be that way so much. I mean, I think human beings in their base form, we kind of like naturally fidget with things, right? There's going to be that one person out there. I don't fidget with anything. A broom is a broom, a shovel is a shovel, a knife is a knife. Oh, all right. But most of us, okay, at least you can't tell me you've never done this at your desk. Or, like, staying alive, right? You do that in your head. You click your pen to something, whatever it is you're thinking about. That's fidget factor. If you've ever done that, then you can't say that you're not all about that life, right? That's definitely the case. OTFs, right? Especially the Guardian Tactical, right? If you've got an OTF, you have done this. For no reason, right? That blade is sitting in there like, yeah, use me or put me away. Like, what are you doing? That's, we do that and it's fun, right? I do that. An automatic knife, absolutely fidget factor can apply. You push the button and it deploys. There's something satisfying about pushing a button and feeling kinetic energy release itself, right? It's a bunch of senses. It's sight, sound, touch, if the feeling of the impact of the stop pins. On top of that, I think a lot of fidget factor has to do with your own personal, draw towards the feeling of a texture, right? It's not just that this is a titanium frame lock flipper, right? But it's shiny and I want to touch that and see what it feels like. Oh, it feels nice, right? So you want to turn it over in your hand. Fidget factor is not just flipping a knife, right? Fidget factor is doing anything. I mean, I'll sit there and turn a knife over and over and over again in my hands all day. Whether I'm actually out using it and I've stopped whatever it is I'm doing to think about it or not, Same thing with I love Contour G10, right? So in this case, the Ritter Hogue, it's a fantastic thumb stud deployer, but then talk about one of the most amazing locking systems for fidget factor because it doubles as one of the better locks out there aside from the Omega springs. Being able to simply pull down on that and it swings shut, right? It's very satisfying. That's why people like that. It's convenient, right? And it's cool. Once you get it down, it's like, yeah, oh, you need that box open? No problem. Cha, cut. Oh, just go back in my pocket. Yeah, no big deal. We do that, right? It's cool. Sometimes, in the case of this is a Carver Damascene steel scalpel / bottle opener that Jeff gave me. And this doesn't do anything except cut. But I like to play with it because it's shiny and it's made out of things that look nice and that are by the general standard of the knife community considered, I hesitate to use the word exotic, right? But for lack of a better word, I guess, exotic materials. Pens, obviously, we click them. Flashlights, same thing, we click them. Is this out of batteries? Oh, no, it's not. Okay. But yeah, click things that click, right? Or things that are small, right? I've got another Carver here. This Mokume, same thing. It's nice to the touch. It's visually, in my opinion, nice. And it's a flipper that actually flips, which is kind of amazing considering how small it is. It makes me, for whatever reason, it makes me want to play with it. Same thing with this Curtis ODT. I have to give it some wrist, right? And it's not, I would say that here's an interesting item. This thing is actually not super friendly in terms of its size, its awkward shape, the area of the flipper tab, the lack of, mass and weight that you have to get the blade out. But for whatever reason, just the fact that it is small and this interesting little titanium object that's shiny and made out of, from what I understand to be, premium materials, right? And it's running on bearings. It's an oddity, and I love it, right? It's compact and it's interesting, so it makes me want to play with it. This is an Off-Grid Knives coin that came with my Scorpion, which is in my pocket today. Speaking of fidget factor, again with the titanium frame locks and smooth bearings, there's a great example. But coins we like, we turn them over our hands, flip them, right? Whatever. And same thing. I mean, I've got a bottle opener here and a pry bar. I mean, I think you guys get it. My point is that is fidget factor something that you should consider when you're buying a knife in any price range? I mean, no, it's not. But do we? Yes. Like, I know good and well that I should not be looking at a knife. I should not be looking at a hinderer going, boy, with that fuller, I probably could do the reverse flick. And I was right. But do I need that? No. I don't need that. It's got a flipper tab on it, and it's got thumb studs. I can deploy it like this. I can deploy it like this. And I think I can get this one with the reverse flick. Whoa, that one's got a heavy detent. I'm sure that I can if I get it just right, but we're not going to mess with it today. Do you know what's funny? I just talked about, like, if you get hinderers in exactly the right spot, you can do the reverse flick no matter what. And actually, I'm finding that this one actually has such a heavy detent, I don't know that I can do it on that one. But that was something that I considered. And on this one, it doesn't matter because that was the reason that I wanted it with the fuller, so that I could overcome that detent at a lower point, right? The whole idea is just to get the blade out and use it. But, I think with me, oftentimes the reason that I consider fidget factor is I have knives that I use and knives that I don't use. And some of these knives are inexpensive. Like, I've got inexpensive knives that I don't use for whatever reason. And I've got expensive knives that I don't use. Now, on the other hand, I've also got inexpensive knives that I definitely use and expensive knives that I definitely use, right? Fidget factor to me oftentimes comes with, like, am I going to use it? Is that opening mechanism going to be convenient and at the same time fun, right? Then yeah, okay. Am I not going to use it? And is it going to be something that I'm going to be sitting around on the couch with for, extended periods of time, flipping over and over and over again and working on my completely meaningless reverse flick skills so that I can flex on my YouTube audience for no reason? How cool am I? Okay, I mean, yeah, but those are the reasons that I consider it. It's ridiculous. Like, this is something that nobody should be considering, and yet somebody like me, like, I'm aware of it, but I do, because I can't help this odd, basic human instinct that I have to want to interact, physically with this object. And I'm completely idle. I have to admit, like, when I try to think back to what's going on in my brain while I'm doing this, it's nothingness. Like, if you could see the inside of my head while I'm sitting on my couch and stupidly doing this, it's nothing. It's a blank, it's an absolute barren wasteland with overcast skies, and there's a tumbleweed 120 yards out in the distance, and it's not even moving. That's the inside of my brain while I'm doing that. And I'm going to venture to guess that there are many of you who, if you try and think, like, try and catch yourself the next time you're sitting on your couch doing this, right? When you come to, because that drool that's hanging out of your bottom lip hits your leg, right? And you're like, oh, what have I been doing for the last 5 minutes? I bet the average activity level inside of your brain was roughly 0, right? I mean, I don't know why we're like that, but we buy these things, whether we care to admit it or not, at least somewhat. I mean, okay, not everybody. I'm not going to sit here and go, everybody buys things based on it. No, that's not true. But whether or not you bought something because fidget factor was something you considered, you can't tell me that you haven't succumbed to it. You haven't caught yourself sitting around, twirling a thumb around, while you think. I think it's just, it's like, it's therapeutic, right? While you're pondering over something, you have an equation to solve, a riddle to solve, an objective to overcome. It's your physical self's way of dealing with this transitional period, right?
Metal complex, you sound so smart.
I have to make fun of myself in the midst of this because I hear these words coming out of my mouth, and I need everybody to know that I'm not trying to be like, I am just thinking far, I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to say that the fidget factor being something that we should or should not consider is not as deep as it's not that shallow. It absolutely is something that's more. I mean, I will sit, and how many of you do this with a magnetic driver? We'll sit and do this. Right? You ever watch your kids just like, with the little wooden things, the little farm animals, and it's wood cutouts, and they're just putting the animals in. They put them all in. All the animals are in the right place, and then they dump it out. They put it back in. And we think, oh, what simple times, like to be entertained by something so simple. We don't grow out of that. While I'm watching my kids do that, I'm sitting on the couch with a magnetic bit driver doing arguably a less complicated task. It's not even a task. I'm doing something even more mindless, learning nothing. I'm aware of how a magnet works. I mean, at least kind of, right? And I'm still doing it. So I think it's just something that is absolutely, it is threaded. No, it's welded into our very being, right? It is entwined. It's part of our genetic makeup. We just need to. It's how we, pass whatever time, while we're being idle. Whether our brain is switched on or not. And so I'm going to conclude this with saying, it's like I said, fidget factor should not matter when you're making a purchase. You should make your purchase, based on research, understanding, what you're going to ask of your knife, whether or not the steel that it's made out of is appropriate for the task or tasks that you plan to be, using it for, blade geometry, handle material, and of course, budget, all that stuff. Basically, everything that you could possibly imagine, about everything you could possibly consider in a knife purchase should be considered before fidget factor. But the hard truth is that there's an enormous population out there, myself included, that subconsciously consider fidget factor before they make a purchase. And you know what? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's going to be pretty much it for today, guys. I hope that you, at the very least, found this mildly entertaining. I love doing weird discussion videos like this, and I love getting feedback from the community. Let me know in the comment section. Do you agree? Do you disagree? How do you, what are your thoughts on it? Where do you think that this comes from? I love talking about stuff like this. So anyways, guys, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like. So check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on this Metal Complex logo right here and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.